Few moral issues elicit emotional responses like those addressing the beginning of human life, abortion, and reproductive technologies. You may have already noted that you have a choice in what you read this week. Some of you will read on the issue of abortion. Some of you will read about reproductive technology. Though the practical moral application related to the two issues are certainly distinct, both issues, and with both issues, the same kinds of ethical concerns are raised. For example, what is the moral status of the human embryo or a human fetus or a baby, a child? Whether that child is created through natural means or through modern technology. Does whether a child is really wanted have any bearing on whether that child should live or die, or whether a child should be created by any means necessary? What is the moral status of the human organism, the human being, the person? How do you determine the moral status of the human organism, or human being, or human person? These are important questions to have, and they're important questions that have implication beyond simply how we treat the unborn. The answer to these kinds of questions will determine in some respects how we treat persons at every stage of life. If we don't find the answer to these kinds of questions, then we're going to miss the right answers to many other ethical issues that address life, such as euthanasia, capital punishment, war and peace, and so forth. You may have noticed that I use three terms: organism, human being, and human person when talking about the unborn. This was, of course, deliberate. As you consider the moral status of the unborn and the ethical implications of reproductive technologies, you ought to bring the full weight of evidence to bear on the issues. And we can divide that evidence into three categories: the scientific, the philosophical, and the theological. The scientific question is, what is a human organism? And when does human life begin? The philosophical question, which is also the legal question, is, what is a person? The theological question is, what is a soul, and when does ensoulment occur? For ethical concerns, we can bracket out the ontological issues related to the theological question and merely argue that human beings are embodied souls who have value as image bearers of God. The evidence of science is that human beings have biological and ontological continuity from conception through all the stages of an adult. Human beings biologically are living organisms, which is a discrete unit of living matter capable of species-specific organization and development towards a mature human form. Consequently, a human being begins at conception. The philosophical evidence regarding personhood draws from the reality of biological continuity and asserts that a human embryo is a human person in the earliest stage of human development, not a potential human being, but already a human being with great potential. Beyond conception, there are no clear-cut ethical lines that can be drawn to denote when a human being or a person begins, that is, when human life suddenly becomes worthy of respect and protection. As such, embryos should not be used as means to an end, even if the ends are good ones, such as financial responsibility, or the cure of diseases, or creating too many embryos in an attempt to ensure a viable pregnancy using reproductive technologies. Altogether, the scientific, philosophical, and theological evidences support an intrinsic view of personhood at every stage of human life. That is, a human being, which includes the embryo, is a person intrinsically based on what it is, its nature, not based on some ability or capacity it attains. A person is fundamentally what we are, not something we do or something we can provide for others. Robert George states the following: We were all embryos once in a blastocyst stage of development. Embryos are not something distinct from the human being. It is a human being at the earliest stages of development. For this reason, George subscribes to a position that says all human beings are equal and ought not to be harmed or considered less human on the basis of age or size or stage of development or condition of dependency. Or to quote another great philosopher, Dr. Seuss, in Horton Hears a Who, a person is a person no matter how small. As you read about the issue of abortion or about the issues around reproductive technologies, I hope you'll take some time to consider the wonder and the mystery and the majesty of human life. We have bodies that allow us to create new human life. God designed us to bring new life into this world, and God designed us also to teach our children to know and to follow Jesus Christ. Now, before I go, let me take just a minute to remind you that your ethics position paper is due next week. I pray that you're progressing well. Keep plugging along. Don't forget the other assignments this week, but work hard to complete your research and writing. And I'll see you next week.